The cameras may have been focused on the smiles, but behind the scenes, the tension between Yandy Smith and her mother-in-law, Judy, has erupted into one of the most shocking confrontations in recent memory. Whispers are spreading fast, and fans everywhere are left gasping at the drama that's spilling out into the open. What was supposed to be a calm lunch turned into a fiery face-off, with Mendeecees trapped helplessly in the middle as the two most important women in his life clashed head-on. Voices were raised, accusations flew, and questions about cheating, loyalty, and respect ripped through the conversation like a thunderstorm. Judy, never one to hold back, demanded answers about rumors that have been dominating headlines, while Yandy stood her ground with raw honesty that no one expected. Emotions ran high, and for those watching from the sidelines, it was impossible to look away. Is this just another heated argument, or the beginning of a family war that could tear apart everything they've built? As the dust settles, fans are left asking, how far will this drama go? And can Mendeecees hold his family together when the battle lines are already drawn? The restaurant was filled with the clinking of silverware and the low hum of conversations. But none of that could drown out the invisible storm brewing at the table where Yandy and Judy sat face to face. It was supposed to be a simple lunch, a polite catch-up between a daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law. But everyone who knew their history understood this was never going to be calm. From the moment Judy walked in, her eyes scanning Yandy's outfit, there was already tension in the air. She made a comment, casual enough to pass as small talk, yet sharp enough to cut. Yandy forced a smile, but her body stiffened. She already knew where this meeting was heading, and it wasn't toward peace. Judy had always been protective of her son, Mendeecees, and sometimes that protectiveness turned into outright suspicion of Yandy's choices. In the past, their clashes had been fiery, but this time, with new headlines swirling and whispers of betrayal making rounds online, the stakes were higher. Judy leaned forward, her tone serious, asking directly about the rumors. "This London man, what's the real story?" she demanded, her eyes narrowing. Yandy exhaled slowly, keeping her composure. She explained that the man had only been showing her around, that the rest of the chatter was exaggerated nonsense. But Judy wasn't satisfied. She pushed harder, asking if there had been emotional cheating. Yandy, perhaps tired of keeping up appearances, admitted that both she and Mendeecees had slipped emotionally, that they had acknowledged it privately and tried to move past it. The confession sent shockwaves. Fans who heard about it online couldn't believe their ears. Emotional cheating might not have been physical, but it was enough to spark outrage, disappointment, and endless speculation. The idea that one of the franchise's most admired couples had cracks, this deep left viewers stunned. Some sided with Yandy for her honesty, others questioned whether she was deflecting from something bigger. Either way, the internet was ablaze, and Judy had the perfect ammunition to keep pressing. The clash escalated when accountability entered the conversation. Judy asked pointedly if Yandy had truly owned up to her mistakes, or if she was just glossing over them with words. Yandy shot back, saying she had taken accountability but wasn't willing to let the world in on every private detail. She insisted that her marriage didn't belong to the headlines, that some things were meant to stay between her and her husband. Judy disagreed, saying if they lived their lives in the spotlight, then transparency was part of the deal. This back and forth was more than a simple disagreement. It was a reflection of two women with entirely different philosophies, colliding in the most public way possible. Mendeecees entered the picture late, his arrival doing little to calm the waters. Instead, he found himself trapped in the middle of the storm, both women expecting him to take their side. He sat down, his voice measured, trying to diffuse the rising heat, but his attempts only made things worse. When asked if he trusted Yandy completely, his hesitation was obvious. When pressed about whether he respected her, his words stumbled out in a way that left everyone reeling. "I think she loves me," he admitted quietly, "but I can't say respect." That statement alone exploded across social media. Fans couldn't believe he had said it so openly, and the debate online was instant. Could love exist without respect? Could respect be withheld while still claiming love? The lunch table became a battleground of philosophies. Yandy argued that love was the foundation, that if love existed, respect should naturally follow. Mendeecees countered that respect was the cornerstone, and without it, love lost its meaning. Judy nodded along with her son, firmly in his corner, while Yandy sat visibly frustrated. The triangle of tension was undeniable, each voice louder than the last, each opinion cutting deeper into the fragile fabric of their family. What had started as a conversation about rumors was now spiraling into a debate about the very definition of their relationship. Throughout the exchange, old wounds resurfaced. Judy reminded Yandy of past controversies, moments where she felt her daughter-in-law had embarrassed the family. Yandy pushed back, reminding Judy that she had stood by her son through the darkest of times, defending their marriage when few believed in it. The more they spoke, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about cheating rumors or accountability. It was about years of tension bubbling to the surface, unresolved conflicts finding their moment to explode. Spectators at nearby tables shifted uncomfortably, sensing the drama but pretending not to eavesdrop. The cameras, of course, captured everything. This wasn't just a private family fight. This was reality television gold. And yet, for those involved, it was painfully real. Emotions weren't being staged. They were raw, unfiltered, and dangerous. Judy's words landed with the sharpness of a blade, while Yandy's responses were laced with both frustration and desperation. Mendeecees, trying to keep his composure, was visibly torn. His loyalty pulled in two directions. As the argument circled back to the infamous water incident, a seemingly small issue that had become symbolic of their larger problems, voices rose again. Judy accused Yandy of making mountains out of molehills, of letting gossip cloud her judgment. Yandy snapped, saying the water was never about water. It was about being dismissed, about small gestures turning into signs of neglect. Mendeecees buried his face in his hands, muttering that he couldn't keep arguing about the same thing. But to Yandy, it wasn't the same thing. It was proof that deeper issues weren't being addressed. Online, the reactions were instant and divided. Some fans praised Yandy for standing her ground, calling her brave for admitting to emotional cheating and demanding respect in return. Others slammed her for bringing private issues into the spotlight, accusing her of trying to manipulate the narrative. Judy, too, had her defenders, with many saying she was only protecting her son from being hurt. The debate spilled into fan pages, gossip blogs, and endless comment sections, turning a family argument into a public spectacle. And yet, beneath all the noise, one undeniable truth lingered. This family was fractured. Whether it could be repaired remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: the cracks were no longer hidden. They were exposed for the world to see, and the fallout would be as messy as the confrontation itself. The argument inside that restaurant did not cool down after Mendeecees tried to ease the tension. If anything, his arrival seemed to magnify the differences that had been simmering for years. Judy leaned in closer, her eyes fixed on Yandy, as if she wanted to pierce through every word that came out of her mouth. She asked again, this time more firmly, if Yandy truly believed she had been accountable for her part in the marriage's struggles. Yandy's response was steady but sharp, saying accountability didn't always have to be a public performance. She stressed that she and Mendeecees had faced their truths privately, admitting wrongs to each other in ways that didn't need to be broadcast. But Judy wasn't convinced. She fired back, saying that secrets and half-truths only fueled gossip. And as long as people kept whispering, her son's name would remain at the mercy of outsiders. Mendeecees raised his hand, asking them to slow down. He explained that he hated being in the middle of two people he loved, but his words carried less weight than the tension itself. Yandy accused him of staying neutral to avoid conflict, pointing out that neutrality wasn't the same as support. Mendeecees shot her a tired look, saying he was exhausted from constantly being asked to pick sides when all he wanted was peace. Judy jumped in, telling her son that peace could only come from truth, and truth required transparency. The cycle of accusation and defense grew tighter, until even the server who came to refill their water glasses looked uneasy. The conversation turned toward respect again, and this time it dug even deeper. Yandy pressed Mendeecees, asking point-blank if he respected her as his wife. The pause before his answer stretched like an eternity. Finally, he admitted that while he knew she loved him, respect was harder to confirm. That confession shattered whatever fragile balance had been holding the table together. Yandy's expression darkened, her lips pressed tight as if holding back a storm. Judy, however, nodded knowingly, as if the truth had finally been spoken aloud. Fans later replayed that moment endlessly, pointing to it as the heart of their conflict. A marriage where love was visible, but respect was questioned. Social media lit up in real time. Clips of the lunch spreading like wildfire. Hashtags trended, with some users claiming that respect without love was empty, while others argued that love without respect could never last. The debate extended beyond fans of the show, drawing in relationship experts, bloggers, and even celebrities who chimed in with their opinions. Everyone seemed to have a take, and the family's private war had transformed into a public court trial with millions of judges. Judy's criticisms didn't stop there. She revisited old memories, recalling the times she felt Yandy had chosen image over authenticity. She brought up outfits, appearances, and past events where she felt her daughter-in-law had been more concerned about the cameras than the family. Yandy fired back, her voice rising, saying she had sacrificed endlessly for this family, that she had defended Mendeecees when no one else believed in him, that she had been loyal even when loyalty came at a personal cost. Mendeecees sat frozen, caught between the two women, his silence loud enough to echo across the room. Then came the most vulnerable moment of the day. Yandy confessed she sometimes felt she was married not only to her husband, but also to his mother. She said the constant need to prove herself, to answer questions that should never leave their home, made her feel suffocated. Judy, visibly offended, shot back that as long as she saw her son hurting, she would never stay silent. Their words clashed like thunder, heavy and unstoppable. Mendeecees tried again to mediate, saying they were both right in their own ways, but his attempt at diplomacy fell flat. Both women wanted more than validation. They wanted victory. At one point, the conversation circled back to the infamous water issue. Judy dismissed it as ridiculous, proof that Yandy was looking for problems where none existed. Yandy slammed her hand lightly against the table, insisting it wasn't about the water itself, but about being dismissed, about small actions symbolizing larger cracks in the relationship. She said every minor slight piled up until it felt like a mountain she could no longer climb alone. Her voice trembled with emotion, and even Judy, for all her fire, seemed briefly taken aback. As their voices rose and fell, the other diners couldn't help but steal glances. The atmosphere had shifted from a casual meal to a performance no one could look away from. The cameras rolled quietly, capturing every raised eyebrow, every sigh, every tear held back. Later, producers would describe it as one of the rawest family showdowns ever filmed for the series. Online, fans dissected every second. Some applauded Yandy for being brutally honest about emotional cheating and for demanding the respect she deserved. Others sided with Judy, saying a mother had the right to protect her son and call out behavior she felt was damaging. And then there were those who focused on Mendeecees, arguing that his indecision and hesitation were what allowed the tension to escalate. In the court of public opinion, every family member was both guilty and innocent, depending on who you asked. Yet even amid the chaos, small moments of vulnerability broke through. Mendeecees admitted quietly that he didn't always know how to express himself, that his silence was sometimes a shield against making things worse. Yandy confessed that she often mistook his silence for disinterest, and that assumption built walls between them. Judy softened slightly, acknowledging she had her flaws as well, but quickly reminded them that her loyalty was to the family name. These glimpses of honesty, though brief, suggested that reconciliation wasn't impossible. It was just buried under layers of pride, pain, and public scrutiny. The lunch ended without resolution, but not without impact. As they rose from the table, the air was still thick with unspoken words. The clash had exposed not just their private struggles, but also the fragile threads holding their family together. Cameras followed as they walked out, their faces telling the story of people who had said too much yet still not enough. Fans watching later couldn't decide if they had just witnessed the unraveling of a family or the first step toward rebuilding it. What everyone agreed on, however, was that the confrontation had forever changed the way they saw Yandy, Judy, and Mendeecees. The days following that explosive lunch were anything but quiet. Clips circulated across social media at lightning speed, sparking endless debates about who was right and who was wrong. Some fans argued that Judy had crossed a line, meddling too much in her son's marriage. Others insisted that Yandy was deflecting from the real issues. using emotional words to shield herself from hard accountability. The more people argued online, the more it felt like this family's private storm had turned into a nationwide spectacle. Bloggers dissected every pause and gesture. Relationship experts weighed in on television, and even fellow cast members couldn't resist adding their own commentary. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a private sit-down had evolved into one of the most talked-about family dramas of the season. Behind the cameras, the tension lingered. Yandy confided to close friends that she felt judged not just by her husband, but by the very family she had worked so hard to be part of. She said it was exhausting to constantly feel like she was on trial, that every outfit, every word, every decision was weighed and measured. In her words, she was tired of playing defense when she had done nothing but fight for her marriage. Her friends sympathized, but even they admitted that perception is a powerful thing. They warned her that in a family as protective as Judy's, every small slip would be magnified. Mendeecees, meanwhile, found himself in a place he dreaded most, stuck between two women he loved deeply. He confided in a cousin that he didn't know how to balance loyalty to his mother with commitment to his wife. He admitted that his hesitation at the lunch was not because he didn't respect Yandy, but because he was afraid that admitting it openly would only fuel more arguments. Yet his silence became ammunition in the eyes of the public. Fans began labeling him indecisive, calling him out for letting both women dominate the conversation while he sat in the middle. Judy, for her part, stood firm in her beliefs. When approached by producers afterward, she made it clear that her only intention was to protect her son and her family's name. She argued that if Yandy was willing to bring her marriage into the spotlight, then she needed to accept the scrutiny that came with it. To Judy, silence meant guilt, and accountability meant transparency, even if it hurt. Her stance, though controversial, won her a surprising number of supporters online, many of them mothers who said they would have done the exact same thing for their children. As the episode aired, other cast members chimed in with their takes. Mama D, known for her fiery opinions, sided with Judy, saying that a mother's instinct should never be ignored. Scrappy, however, took a more neutral stance, pointing out that both women had strong personalities, and that sometimes the real problem was Mendeecees' unwillingness to take a firm position. The cast's divided opinions mirrored the audience's, creating a ripple effect that kept the storyline alive well beyond the initial confrontation. Yandy, feeling the weight of it all, began questioning her next move. She wondered aloud if therapy was enough, if counseling could bridge the gaps that seemed to grow wider with every argument. She admitted to a friend that she feared her marriage was being judged by outsiders before she and Mendeecees even had a chance to fix it themselves. Her words were heavy with doubt, but also with determination. She refused to give up, insisting that she still believed in the love that had carried them through so much already. Mendeecees struggled with his own thoughts. Late at night, he reflected on the moment he said he couldn't confirm respect. He knew those words had cut Yandy deeply, and he regretted letting them slip without explanation. In his mind, respect wasn't missing. It was just complicated. He respected her strength, her ambition, her role as a mother, but he struggled with the way she sometimes handled conflict, bringing private issues into public view. He wondered if perhaps they were speaking two different languages when it came to love and respect, and if so, how they could ever translate for each other. The drama also began affecting their children indirectly. Though shielded from the cameras, whispers in the household were hard to ignore. Yandy worried about the example they were setting, telling a friend she didn't want her kids to grow up believing love meant constant fighting. Mendeecees echoed the concern, saying he never wanted their home to feel like a battleground. Yet even as they agreed on that point, their approaches to solving the problem clashed. He wanted quiet solutions, she wanted open conversations. The difference in styles only deepened the divide. Still, amid the chaos, moments of clarity emerged. One evening, Mendeecees surprised Yandy by acknowledging her sacrifices out loud, thanking her for holding things together when he couldn't. It was a small gesture, but it carried weight. Yandy, caught off guard, softened for the first time in days. She admitted she missed that version of him, the one who saw her and appreciated her. The tenderness didn't erase their problems, but it reminded them both why they were still fighting for each other. As the storyline continued to dominate headlines, speculation about their future grew louder. Some fans predicted divorce, while others held on to hope for reconciliation. Gossip blogs churned out theories, some claiming secret separations, others suggesting dramatic reconciliations on the horizon. The uncertainty only fueled more interest, turning their personal pain into public entertainment. But for Yandy and Mendeecees, the noise outside was less important than the silence between them at home. That silence was what needed to be broken if they had any chance of surviving the storm. And so, while the world debated their fate, the couple faced long nights of difficult conversations, revisiting old wounds, confessing hidden fears, and searching for common ground. Whether they would find it remained uncertain, but one thing was undeniable. The clash with Judy had opened doors they could no longer close. Every word spoken at that table echoed into their future, shaping what came next for their marriage, their family, and their place in the ever-dramatic universe of love and hip-hop. The weeks after that unforgettable confrontation felt like walking on glass for everyone involved. The echoes of raised voices and unfinished sentences lingered, making family dinners tense and phone calls short. Yandy tried to keep herself busy with work, but the whispers online and the constant opinions from fans weighed heavy on her. Every scroll through her phone brought reminders of the fight, with headlines shouting about Yandy vs. Judy, and comment sections filled with strangers deciding the fate of her marriage. She confided in a close friend that she felt exposed in a way she had never felt before, as if every part of her life was now up for public debate. Mendeecees, on the other hand, carried his own burden. He was stuck replaying the moment he admitted respect was hard to confirm. Those words had haunted him since, not because he didn't respect Yandy, but because he had let his frustration speak louder than his heart. He admitted to a cousin that he was afraid those words might have done more damage than any rumor ever could. Still, pride kept him from apologizing immediately, and that silence stretched between him and Yandy like a wall. Judy, true to form, didn't back down either. She told friends she stood by everything she said, insisting her only goal was to protect her son. She admitted she might have been blunt, but in her eyes, bluntness was better than pretending. When asked if she regretted confronting Yandy so directly, her answer was simple: no, because if I don't speak up, who will? Her conviction only deepened the divide, and though Mendeecees loved his mother, he began to realize her involvement was tearing at the fragile threads holding his marriage together, behind closed doors. However, moments of softness began to resurface. One night, after another exhausting day of headlines and gossip, Yandy and Mendeecees sat together in the quiet of their living room. The kids were asleep, the phones were off, and for the first time in days, there was no noise except the hum of the refrigerator. Yandy broke the silence first, admitting she was tired of fighting, tired of carrying anger that felt heavier by the day. Mendeecees nodded, finally letting his guard down, and told her he didn't want to lose her. They talked for hours, not with raised voices but with weary honesty, acknowledging that if they didn't start rebuilding now, there might not be anything left to save. The conversation turned to the core issues: trust, respect, and accountability. They admitted they had both fallen short in different ways, and for once, there was no competition over who had sacrificed more. Instead, they focused on what needed to change. Yandy asked for consistency, small but meaningful actions that proved she wasn't alone in this fight. Mendeecees asked for patience, a chance to grow without being judged for every stumble. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning, a fragile step toward healing. The next morning, in a surprising twist, Mendeecees reached out to a counselor himself. He booked the appointment, then sent Yandy the confirmation message as proof. Fans online would later hear about it and explode with mixed reactions, some praising him for finally taking initiative, others skeptical that it was just a storyline move. But for Yandy, the gesture meant something. It wasn't grand, but it was effort, and that was what she had been asking for all along. Still, the shadow of Judy loomed. Family friends reported that she felt sidelined, claiming she wasn't against the marriage but wanted clarity on where it was headed. She maintained that her son's happiness was her only priority, though critics online argued that her constant involvement was a big part of the problem. Once again, fan pages divided into camps: Team Yandy, who believed Judy was overstepping, and Team Judy, who felt mothers have the right to question anything that threatens their child's peace. As the new episode aired, one clip caught fans off guard. Judy admitted on camera that she sometimes feared losing influence over her son since marrying Yandy. The statement went viral, with many interpreting it as confirmation that the tension wasn't just about respect or accountability. It was also about control. That revelation added another layer to the already messy saga, making it clear that this wasn't just a marriage issue, but a generational clash of values. At home, though the progress between Yandy and Mendeecees continued slowly, they agreed to spend more time as a family without cameras, scheduling quiet dinners and even planning a short trip with the kids. These weren't solutions to their problems, but they were reminders of why they were fighting so hard in the first place. Yandy confided in a friend that she felt hopeful for the first time in weeks, though she admitted the road ahead would still be rocky. As the dust settled, the question of love versus respect remained unsolved. Some fans argued that Yandy's need for love and validation clashed with Mendeecees' insistence on respect as the foundation. Others said both were right, but neither knew how to bridge the gap. Relationship experts invited onto talk shows even weighed in, calling their situation a classic case of mismatched expectations. So where does that leave them now? The truth is, their story is still being written. They stand at a crossroads, with one path leading toward reconciliation and growth, and the other toward deeper division. What happens next will depend not just on their choices, but on whether they can block out the noise of the world long enough to hear each other clearly. And now it's over to you. Do you think Yandy and Mendeecees can overcome the battle lines that Judy's clash brought to the surface? Was this fight the breaking point? Or was it the wake-up call they desperately needed? Should Judy step back and let them figure it out? Or is her tough love exactly what's needed to hold this family accountable? Let us know what you think in the comments below, because your perspective adds to this story. If you've been gripped by this drama, hit the like button right now, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive updates straight from the world of love and hip-hop. And be sure to ring that notification bell so you never miss a twist. Because in this saga, every conversation could be the one that changes everything. Stay tuned, because the next chapter is guaranteed to be just as dramatic, if not more. After everything we've just witnessed, one thing is clear. This family's story is far from finished. The emotions we saw weren't just for the cameras. They were raw, unfiltered, and powerful enough to divide fans across the globe. Questions of love, respect, and accountability continue to hang in the air like storm clouds, leaving us all wondering whether Yandy and Mendeecees can find peace, or if Judy's tough presence will keep the battle alive. Can a marriage truly survive when it feels like every conversation becomes a public headline? Or will the strength of their history be enough to push them through the fire and into a stronger tomorrow? But here's where you come in. What do you think will happen next? Should Mendeecees draw a firmer line between his mother and his marriage? Or does Judy's blunt honesty keep him grounded? Is Yandy right to demand love first? Or is respect the missing key to saving it all? Your opinions matter, and we want to hear every thought, every theory, and every prediction in the comments below. If you've been caught up in this roller coaster, don't just watch. Be part of the conversation. Hit that like button to show your support, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next explosive twist. Because in the world of love and hip-hop, every whisper can turn into a headline. Every argument can shake a family, and every episode promises the kind of drama you simply can't make up. Stay tuned, because the next chapter is coming, and trust us, you won't want to miss it. You won't want to miss it.